KAMR Local 4 News, your local election headquarters. This is Politics Today with Jackie Kingston.
Local leaders are celebrating after the Texas Tech Vet School. Hear what they have to say about the future of veterinary medicine here in Amarillo. The parking garage in downtown Amarillo is exceeding its financial expectations. We'll be taking a look at those numbers. Texas Tech is celebrating the approval of funding for the future School of Veterinary Medicine. When Governor Abbott signed the budget last weekend, he made their dream of a school here in Amarillo a reality. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Maggie Glenn, filling in for Jackie Kingston. That budget includes more than $17 million for the School of Veterinary Medicine, which will go toward operational needs in order to get the school up and running. Donors and civic leaders have already pledged $90 million toward infrastructure and the construction of the school at the Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center. The School of Veterinary Medicine is expected to open in the fall of 2021. Texas Tech University System Chancellor Dr. Ted Mitchell says it's a win-win for the school and future vet students.
When you look at the faculty that you bring in, the staff that you bring in, and the students that you bring in, we're calculating that the annual impact to the economy here will be about $76 million every year.
The focus of the school will remain on large animals, mainly livestock. Amarillo ISD Board of Trustees approved the 2019 and 2020 district budget last night. The board also approved an employee compensation plan along with that budget. AASD teacher and president of the Amarillo Education Association, Aaron Phillips, says while the board met parts of the AEA's budget demands, they fell short when it comes to teacher pay raises. The Board of Trustees is also considering changing the name of Lee Elementary to Park Hills Elementary. The board decided that they will take a vote on that change next month. Amarillo ISD is looking to fill 2 vacancies on their Board of Trustees. The spots became open after board members John Ben Blanchard and Renee McCown turned in their resignations. The 5-member board will choose 2 individuals from a pool of applicants who will finish out the term, which expires in May 2021. The new appointees can then choose to run for election after that. Though some school districts in Texas already offer full-day pre-kindergarten programs, the state of Texas is now stepping in to help funding full-day pre-K. Was a part of the school finance bill recently signed into law. Politics Today's Steffi Lee shows us what this assistance will mean for students.
Awesome. Yep.
Wiley ISD uses its own dollars to provide a full-day pre-K program for 150 students.
Which, in essence, took funding away from the other students in the school. Sports or band.
But Superintendent Joey Light says the district felt like this was a necessary investment.
If we didn't have the opportunity to work with these kiddos at 4, we really feel strongly that a majority of them would have a more difficult time as they entered kindergarten.
An opportunity, but also a challenge for some.
Teachers are harder and harder to come by every year. So there's no doubt that that's going to put some school districts in a tight situation.
But with more money from the state, experts say there are options.
In pre-K, you can also have that second person in the classroom be a paraprofessional, and our outcomes are still high.
They also say this new law will help kids statewide outside of classroom instruction.
The full day pre-K means that children will have access to 2 hot meals a day versus 1 hot meal a day. For families who are at or near the federal poverty level, this is going to be a huge boost to them and their whole family nutrition program.
And they offer a key reminder, pre-K is only a first step in a long educational journey.
You have to follow it up with high quality instruction at kindergarten, at 1st grade, 2nd grade, and all the grades up.
The recommended student-to-adult ratio for pre-K classrooms is 11 students to 1 instructor in Texas. Experts say students can still experience improvements with having 15 or 16 students to 1 adult. They add that with the state's help now, districts might be able to look at adding an aide to the classroom to lower that ratio and help students one-on-one. Last week, city officials gathered to talk about the financials of Amarillo's local government corporation parking garage. Jared Danforth, the director of facilities and capital projects, says the convenience for baseball fans is a plus. He says the design is functioning well and the garage is usually emptied out about 20 minutes after baseball games end. So far, Danforth says the parking garage has exceeded their revenue goals by about $70,000. And with paid curbside parking in downtown, that's causing the garage to fill up.
It's hard to specify those numbers because the hotel is doing so well. A lot of the hotel guests are now parking in the garage instead of curbside, so I can say that that has caused a little bit of the uptick instead of vehicles parked up and down Buchanan and Pierce overnight.
Danforth says it's not common for the people of Amarillo to use a parking garage, especially one that's fully automated, so the city is doing its best to inform customers. Signage is being placed at all entrances and exits, so it's clear exactly where to park and how to pay. There are also kiosks and a call number for customers needing immediate help. A local brewery here in Amarillo will soon be allowed to sell their products to go. Starting September 1st, Longwood and Spoon Brewing here in Amarillo, along with other Texas craft breweries, will officially be allowed to sell their beer to go. This comes after Governor Greg Abbott signed House Bill 1545 over the weekend, also known as the Beer to Go bill. Longwood and Spoon co-owner and head brewer Jared Reed talks about what it was like seeing Governor Abbott officially sign the bill, allowing his business to grow.
It was a sigh of relief. It's about time it happened, and we're glad it happened. And now we just got to get ready for us to be able to sell beer to go. You're happy, but at the same time you're like, oh, now we got more to do. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing to have. So, and that's what we want. We want to be able to grow.
With the signing, Texas becomes the last state in the country to allow craft breweries to sell beer to go. A new law that takes effect in September aims to help victims forced to take on debt. The term is called coerced debt. Oftentimes, survivors of domestic abuse end up with bad credit because their partners pressured them to take on debt or did it without their knowledge. Attorneys say it can impact getting housing and employment. This new law will allow them to get a police report alleging identity theft. The Texas Coalition on Coerced Debt is working on an interactive toolkit that will launch this fall to help people identify whether they've been a victim of identity theft. A new law could make carrying handguns into churches easier. Hear what lawmakers are saying about it when we come back. More resources are on the way to protect military members battling mental issues. A new Texas law will create a statewide camo alert system. It's for military members with post-traumatic stress disorder or traumatic brain injuries who go missing. It's similar to an Amber Alert. It's designed to protect health and safety of military members, but there are concerns about balancing safety risks with privacy.
You don't necessarily have to say, here's all of this person's business. You know, we don't necessarily put every detail in an Amber Alert. We just primarily know that they're missing. There might be, issues going on. In this case, there might be mental health issues going on.
The Camo Alert launches on September 1st. It's a pilot program that is slated to expire in 5 years. It may soon be easier to legally carry handguns into places of worship here in Texas. A new Texas law aims to clear up what one lawmaker calls confusion. The bill, which was signed into law by the governor, strikes a provision in current law that says handguns are not allowed in churches, synagogues, or other places of worship. Once this law takes effect, it's up to your church to decide by posting a sign or giving verbal notice whether or not you will legally be able to carry handguns on church grounds. The bill's author says this legislation was inspired by the deadly shooting at a church in the tiny Texas town of Sutherland Springs back in 2017, but it's opposed by some church leaders.
There needed to be clarity. I mean, look what stopped the massacre. A good guy with a gun acting quickly. Can you imagine if somebody would have had a gun sitting in the pew? How many lives would have been saved?
It's a practical reason and a theological reason that we are against having guns in churches or any law that would reduce the fines or the time served for breaking our preference not to have guns in a church.
The legislation also lessens the penalty from a Class A misdemeanor with possible jail time and up to $4,000 in fines to a Class C misdemeanor with a $200 fine. The new law takes effect in September. Jackie Kingston made a trip to Dallas a few weeks ago and had the chance to sit down with NBC's Chuck Todd. Coming up, see what he has to say about Texas's role in the upcoming election. Jackie Kingston visited Dallas a couple weeks ago to meet with NBC's Chuck Todd. He came to Texas to meet with media and discuss the upcoming election. Jackie sat down with him to discuss Texas's role in 2020.
Chuck, thanks for your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Okay, so tell me a little bit about, as we look forward into 2020, Texas. Are we going to be a contender? Is this one of those things that people are looking at Texas in our electorate with new eyes?
I think people are looking at it with new eyes. I mean, at the end of the day, there was a lot of us in the national space that were skeptical of Beto O'Rourke, right? Okay, we see all the money. We know there's certainly a liberal enthusiasm to be for anybody that isn't Ted Cruz. But the question was, is that real, right? And the fact is, it was a three-point race. And so that, it wakes you up. You realize that, okay, this is what Democrats have been arguing for years, that if a candidate shows up everywhere, puts in the time, that this is a state that wants to be a purple state. Maybe not quite there. And I think that that's the way we're all going to treat it, I think, a little bit differently this time, that it isn't going to be just candidates coming to raise money, right? Usually you get basically candidates to show up in Houston and Dallas. The Democrats go to Houston, I think, and the Republicans would go to Dallas, raise their money, and they go in and out. I think that's different this time. I think you're going to see real campaigning in the state. I still think that Texas feels like a state that isn't going to be a decisive. You know, if Democrats win it, well, they've probably won 30 other states. Right. But it certainly looks like it's going to be competitive, and what that means down the ballot, it reminds me of Florida in the 90s. Florida, you started to see, oh, it's not the solid Republican state anymore. And you started to first see it in a congressional race here, a Senate race there. And that's what it reminds me of here. And you're starting to see the fact that both parties are taking this seriously tells me that, you know what, it's real.
So in Texas, obviously, we're pretty reliably red. We have been for a very long time. Right. And I think that that people, especially who watch the Sunday morning programs, they kind of expect Texas to be treated that way. Right. Do you think that there's a second look at credibility that we have to think of as far as covering this for people, you know, who are here and who may be on the bubble?
I certainly think so. I certainly think that we have sort of treated Texas the same way nationally we've treated California politically. That's the liberal state, that's the conservative state. Those are the two big states, and they're emblematic of all the smaller blues and the smaller reds. It's more complicated than that, and I think we've really learned that it's very complicated in Texas. I think what's fascinating, and I think what's going to be a challenge for us on the national level, is Texas is competitive, but it's not competitive for the same reasons that Florida's competitive or that Ohio's competitive. It's, while the demographics are trending the same way, urban and suburban Texas moving in one direction, exurban and rural Texas moving in another, the issues that animate are a little bit different. And so I think that is going to be a challenge. I am fascinated to see, will the eventual Democratic nominee be comfortable pitching a national Democratic message here in Texas? Or are they comfortable having a different message for Texas than they are for the rest of their campaign? And I think that's going to be the real challenge. I think it's a lot easier for Republicans to campaign nationally and here right now than it is for Democrats. And I think that probably will keep Democrats from being able to pull this one off in 2020, but that doesn't mean it's not real.
I think people are sick of hearing about politics in our area, right? They're just burdened by it, and I think that it will be interesting, and I'd like to get your opinion on getting people engaged and re-engaged closer to 2020, closer to the primaries.
Oh, I think, look, this is I'm looking at this from a macro level, obviously, but and it was clear here with O'Rourke's candidacy. The turnout in the midterm election was a presidential level turnout. We got more people to vote in a midterm election than we did in the number of people that voted in the 2000 election. And yes, we've never had more than 100 million people participate in a midterm election, and this time we had 115 plus million people. We are going to have more people vote, and it's not just because of population increase. We are going to have a higher actual turnout than ever before. Look, high turnout means trends break, okay? High turnout means what used to be isn't always. We learned that here in Texas, didn't we? High turnout, all of a sudden, down the ballot, it's an interesting array of colors, of reds and blues in places that you didn't always see some blue dots. So I do think that is a longer term, and we have to get smarter about how to cover Texas nationally.
Chuck, thanks for your time.
You got it.
Thank you very much.
Right.
I appreciate you.
Yes.
To watch that interview again and find more political coverage, you can always visit our website over at myhighplains.com. Lawmakers in Washington are taking another look at health care. Next, we'll take a look at their plans and how they could impact rural hospitals in our area. President Trump says ICE will deport millions of people starting this week. Reaction from lawmakers on Capitol Hill was quick, with Democrats calling the plan inhumane and unrealistic. Washington correspondent Alexandra Limon reports some lawmakers say the announcement is campaign rhetoric.
In a Monday night tweet, President Trump said next week ICE will begin the process of removing millions of illegal aliens. Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley is suspicious of the president's tweet, noting that it came just as the president is preparing to officially announce his re-election campaign.
He wants to use prejudices and amplify the bigotry and engage in campaigns.
And Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said the idea of abruptly deporting millions of immigrants is both inhumane and impossible.
Two of the highest-ranking officials within the agency, within CSIS and Homeland Security, have said it's impossible to do, and they're not prepared to do it.
When I asked who ICE will target, a Trump administration official said there are more than 1 million immigrants who the courts have ordered be deported, but who remain at large within the U.S. However, reports of a plan targeting immigrant families have circulated in Washington for months. Some say the friction over the plan may have been the reason Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen was fired in April. Senator Merkley says people in Oregon are concerned about the economic impact of deporting millions.
They're very concerned about a supply of labor for everything from our vineyards to our processing facilities to our fields.
In Washington, Alexandra Limon.
Kansas Congressman Ron Estes warns there will be no more rural hospitals under the Democrats' Medicare for All health care plan. Lawmakers are taking a look at what life would be like if health care coverage was expanded to all Americans. Democrats say it could make health care affordable nationwide, but Politics Today's Anna Wernicke explains Republicans say it would be disastrous.
Imagine a day in your life under Medicare for All.
Texas Republican Congressman Kevin Brady imagines it would be a disaster.
Many Americans will pay more, wait longer for health care, and get worse care than you receive now.
The House Ways and Means Committee is taking a closer look at a Democratic plan for universal health care, or Medicare for All.
The Democrats' bill would cover medical care, vision, dental, and mental health for all Americans. Kansas Republican Ron Estes is not a fan.
We're looking at a one-size-fits-all, kind of the same approach that we've been doing with the government-run health care.
And Estes says, as written, the Democrats' plan would be a death sentence to rural hospitals.
If they're taking a 40% cut in reimbursements, there will be more hospitals closed because of that, and we just can't have that.
That's also a concern for Massachusetts Democrat Richard Neal.
Many of us have hospitals in our districts that are now among the largest employers in our state or region.
I support it, not because it's perfect.
But other Democrats, like Texas Congressman Lloyd Doggett, say Americans need Congress to pass this bill.
Because it represents real progress in presenting a bold idea to address the shortcomings in our system.
The committee says they plan to hold another hearing in the next few weeks. In Washington, I'm Anna Wernicke.
Like Anna said, the committee says they plan to hold another hearing in the next few weeks. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is being honored as a hero for her work on the Supreme Court. Coming up, we'll show you who's giving her the recognition. Batman, Superman, Black Panther, Wonder Woman, and now Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Where all the others battled it out in the world of fiction, MTV is celebrating this real-life hero. So, this happened. The Supreme Court Justice won the Best Real Life Hero Award at the MTV Movie and TV Awards last night. The awards celebrate the best on-screen work of the past year, and people vote online for their favorites. RBG got her nod thanks to the CNN Films documentary about her life, aptly named RBG. The 86-year-old liberal legal icon was the second woman of 4 to be confirmed to the Supreme Court, where she's ruled for 25 years. Congrats to RBG. Remember, you can always go like us on Facebook, and remember, you can follow us on Twitter as well. You can always stay up on the latest political news with us. This week, we have continuing coverage over on our website, myhighplains.com. Plus, be sure to check us out on Alexa, Instagram, and like us on Facebook. I hope y'all have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll see you back here again next Sunday morning.